Scott Wetzel is not for everyone. For instance, sane people who can easily tell right from wrong or strongly urge to change the channel. Doctors Radio declared listening to Scott Wetzel can be hazardous to your health and can cause sickness, strokes, or wanting to take long walks on short piers. Feelings of agitation, dizziness, depression, frustration, and cold sweats are common when listening to Scott. You can have a bad reaction, such as confusion, redness in the face, teeth clenching, fist pounding, wanting to put a fork in your eye, and feeling the need to throw your radio out the window. Listeners have also reported increased swearing, trouble sleeping, and a strong desire to gamble. Truckers and drivers are urged to stay away. Learn from Jack from Arkansas. As for women, don't even think about it.
Oh no, my nipples clearly got erect.
You've been warned. Now, here's your host, Scott Wetzel.
Yes. Welcome to the Scott Wetzel Show right here on FanStream Sports. Day number 2 of our hopefully endless list of shows every Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time right here on FanStream Sports. Lot to get to today. Winners and losers from the NBA draft last night. Where's Mel Kiper when you need him, right? The Jets are still the Jets. The Mets are still the Mets with the craziest baseball play you'll ever see last night. We got a San Francisco Giants mistake, perhaps. How about a Jazz Chisholm licks to take to swallow a lollipop? Roger in out, the oldest 50-year-old man you'll ever hear and see. And soccer still sucks. We'll get to all those stories, maybe little tweets, maybe a little bit of everything else going on right here on a wonderful Wednesday afternoon. Scott Wetzel in for the next hour and a half or so. We'll start with the NBA draft. First of all, who knew there were 2 rounds, one yesterday, one tonight? I thought both rounds were last night. They kind of taking the carbon copy from the NFL, which spreads it out over 3 days, which you don't need. 2 maybe, but certainly not 3. And you really don't need 2 days of the NBA draft. I mean, last night's broadcast was just brutal. I'll start with the players, and then we'll get into the broadcast. But, I call it a nature of love here since that's what I do. I'm really more in tune on how the broadcast went than where I am players going which way will lose, right? But overall, no major surprises, nothing crazy. DeBanson goes number 1 to Washington. We figured that. And Pearson goes number 2 to Utah. We kind of figured that. Like the top 5 picks really kind of went as most people figured. Here in New York, they don't offer those draft choice picks on FanDuel or DraftKings or the like. You can't. There's a number of things here in New York. You would think New York would be able to gamble on everything, but one of them that you can't. No Heisman Trophy gambling, no MVP gambling, and no draft gambling. So I didn't really pay too much attention to that. But if so, I don't know what the odds would have been on those guys. But they all kind of went 1 through 5 as expected, right? The biggest surprise came at 6 when the dopey Brooklyn Nets took Mikal Brown over Arkansas guard Darius Akoff, who I've seen play him many times. And one thing about the NBA draft, it's like, you got so-called experts that throw these names out there. And how many times did you watch this kid play, right? Maybe once or twice. So I'm not going to lie to you and say I saw Mikal Brown of Louisville play very many times. But I did see Arkansas Akoff play quite a few times. I had a ticket on them to win the national championship, which obviously went belly up. But he was phenomenal. Now, he's good. And Brown may end up being good. And maybe the Nets know more than me. I kind of doubt that. But, man, to think that they had a chance to get this guy that I thought would be going in the top 4, maybe 5, and he slid down to 6, and they still passed on him, I think that's a mistake, number 1. I really do. And then I'm not sure what Dallas was doing. They hired Dusty May from Michigan. Maybe he got pushed out, but, he's now with the Dallas Mavericks, right? All 3 Wolverine players are on the board when they selected at number 9, and I figured the Lendenborg kid would go to them. But instead, they chose, really, to me, I think the 3rd best player, even behind Mara, and then as the Johnson Jr. kid, who, to me, the upside is Lendenborg. I love the fact that Golden State got him at number 11. So I'm a little surprised. And then during the broadcast even, right? They're trying to play up the obvious. Oh, the connection, Dusty May and Dallas, and now he's going to get a Michigan guy. Oh, look at Dusty May. He's so thrilled and this and that. Meanwhile, they were showing shots of Dusty May. He looked like he got his hand caught in a cookie jar. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't laughing. He had that look of, what the fudge did we just do? We had a choice of all three of my guys. I don't want this guy. I want the other guy. That's the look that he actually had on his face. It wasn't what they were trying to sell us about how happy he was. I'm really surprised, but how happy he was and everything else. So I thought that was kind of funny, right? UConn Senator Terrace Reed going to Denver via San Antonio. Joker gets a little bit of relief, battle with Wembanyama. And then Mara, the 7-3 center, goes to OKC. You can't help but think, right, the Thunder weren't thinking of Wembanyama when they draft a 7-3 guy. They definitely need some help and some muscle down low. So I think all those things kind of made sense to me. And the two losers were the Nets and the Dallas Mavericks. But the broadcast, to me, kind of overshadowed the picks. First of all, they're second in line. Right? The NFL is number one when it comes to draft. And, NBA by default is number two. Nobody follows baseball draft, outside of maybe, if you get a Paul Skeens, maybe one or two guys at most, right? Same thing with the NHL. Whoever is the consensus number one, we'll hear about that name, but no one knows after the first two picks. So by default, the NBA has the most interest, even though it is slight. You talk about a know-nothing broadcast. I was watching a Four Letter Networks broadcast. I don't even know if the NBA had it, to tell you the truth. I was so stuck on the Four Letter Network. There are certain players and people, I was bringing this up on a podcast today, that they just exude, okay, if I'm there, it's important. Pat Summerall, John Madden, if they're doing it, it's important. Buck now and Aikman, if they're there, they're doing it. Pick all your great TV broadcasters, and they can be televising the Topeka High Little League baseball games. And if those guys are there, it's like, wow, this is an event. Just their presence, their aura, right? The four bird brains last night, and I like Malik Andrews, good looking broad, not bad. Right? I can deal with her. She was the kind of host, but the other three. Jay Billis says just nothing. I mean, he is so bad. I don't, outside of him being a dookie pukey, I don't know why he is on TV. He says nothing. And how many NBA games has that guy watched in his lifetime? 2? And now all of a sudden he's going to be talking about college kids that he knows, but translating that into the NBA, I don't see it. I really don't. So they said nothing. Where was the whole time we thought that Dibanza, who's from Utah, went to BYU, or at least went to BYU, wanted to be picked by the Utah Jazz, right? That was the whole consensus. Jazz lose the lottery, they're number 2, right? So he gets picked number 1 by Washington, and all that they were saying was, oh yeah, he wanted to be the first overall pick and this and that, which maybe he did, but the thinking was he wanted to go to Utah. So why wasn't that discussed? Nothing. Nothing. No. He wanted to be number 1. He was number 1. Really? We got the ugliest white man alive in Commissioner Adam Silver. Boy, is that guy goofy looking, right? He is just one strange looking dude. And I can only imagine his baldness, emphasizes it. But then I was thinking, if this guy actually had hair, he'd be even weirder looking. Like he would be like the Munster, if you remember the old days of the Munsters, right? Just weird looking. So I got to see his face every 15 minutes with the draft picks, right? Players say nothing. They do these stupid interviews with the players. And really, I wouldn't let my guy do it, because nearly every single one came across like a dope that couldn't spell cat if you spotted the C and the T. I mean, really. Whether it was Dibanza or any of these guys, only a couple actually like, okay, that guy knows what he's doing. And I get it, they haven't been on TV that much, but a lot of these guys actually have, though. These guys have done a lot of interviews that they should be a little bit more comfortable. I'll give the parents and the sisters and their girlfriends a pass. Why they had to be brought up, I don't know. But it was just like, you listen to these guys speak, and it's like that's going to be the face of the franchise. That's our number 1 overall pick, or that's our first round draft choice. He's going to be that aggressive, or is he going to show some aggressiveness? I mean, they really come across bad. You want to talk to him for a second after the draft choice? Okay. How excited are you? Are you happy? Yes. Great. See you later. Next pick. Let's go. But to actually sit down with him like they did, that was just stupid. So I was waiting for the Mel Kiper moment, right? And we don't even really get that from Kiper really yet that much anymore. But there was no debate, no talk. Like I said, Devanza wanted to go to Utah. None of that. Peterson didn't play half the freaking games. He sat out most of the games at Kansas. Any talk about that? Any thinking of like, listen, we're a little bit concerned. If the dude is not playing in college when he's got nothing guaranteed, now you're going to give him literally $60 million a year, his first rookie contract. You a little worried about that? Like any of that talk? Nothing? I mean, the guy sat out every freaking game. The sore little backs, the sore little pinky, stubbed his toe. I'm not playing, coach. Sorry, Bill. I'm not playing tonight. I mean, it was brutal watching Kansas game and betting on Kansas game, thinking the guy's going to play and didn't play. He may be great, but at least discuss it. Bring it up. Nothing last night. So it was awful TV. And then, I mean, after the first, about 12 picks, 13 picks, then the trades start kicking in. So the Knicks, this is the funniest thing, right? The Knicks are drafted 24th and at the end, right? But their first pick was 24th. So, okay, Knicks turn. Obviously the draft's here in New York and everyone's going crazy and they show the banners and they have a little slideshow and whatever, New York Knicks and blah, 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 right? So then, which I actually thought was pretty good, I think it was Andrews, says, I hate to break everyone's bubble, but the draft choice was just traded to the LA Lakers, right? It was actually kind of a funny little moment. How are they going to spin this off, right? Okay, that's cute, but is what it is. So 2 minutes later, they go to the podium and the New York Knicks are drafting. And I'm like, wait a minute. You just got through saying the Knicks traded the pick to the LA Lakers. Why aren't the Lakers drafting right now? Why are the Knicks drafting right now? Never explained. They never, did they get it wrong? Were they ahead of the game? And they had that so many times. There were so many trades about players picking guys that really aren't going to be on their team. And are they on the team? Are they not on the team? It's like a who's who of who got traded, after pick 13 or so, 14. So TV had nothing. They did a lousy job. They just hate to say it, but actually, no, I don't. But they just did a lousy job. It was very confusing. And who ended up where after the first, like I said, 13, 14 picks, who knows? But anyway, we got through the first round, and now we got round number 2. Hell, the Stanley Cup Finals will have more people watching than round 2 of the NBA draft. And sadly, unfortunately, that's not saying too much. It really isn't. I do see the Lakers sign Austin Reeves today, or will, rumored report. 4 years, $185 million. Austin Reeves, $46.5 million a year for Austin, or 46.25, whatever. For Austin Reeves, he averages 22, 23 points a game, and he's been in the league 5 years. And we looked it up, and each year he has gotten better, with last year at 23 and change being his best year. But Austin Reeves, really? Where was he in the playoffs? He averages 7 points less when Luka's not playing. So he's not a good mix for whatever reason. You want to say that's Luka. You want to say that's Reeves is intimidated. You want to say that's LeBron. Bottom line is, when Luka doesn't play, he averages 28 points. When Luka does play, he averages only 21. Not bad, but that's a big difference. So is he a product of Luka, being on the court, but then not being able to mesh with him? He's a ball hog. You never even saw a shot he didn't like. I would take him on my team, but $46.5 million? Oh, I tell you, it's only a matter of time before one of these guys makes $100 million. NBA has pretty solid rules. If you're not that familiar with how much you can make, it's like 20%. You can only make like 20% more of what you made the year before. And if you've been in the league a long time, the same team, you can make a little bit more, which is why teams sign players and then trade them, because they throw the player a bone. Okay, because you could sign with me as an extension for more money than what you can really sign with a free agent or a team that we're going to trade you to. So there are goofy rules like that, but there are limitations. It's not just like football. You could pay anything. It is what it is. If you got some team that wants to pay you $100 million, you have your salary cap for the team, but the player itself can make as much as you want. Basketball's not like there are rules about that, but it is only a matter of time before we get a $100 million a year guy. And I think we're going to get a couple. I mean, if Austin Reeves in the current structure can make $46.5 million a year, then when Anthony Edwards becomes a free agent, when Wembanyama becomes a free agent, when some of these guys become free agents and can manipulate the system to their advantage, 100 million got to be there. It's got to be there. I mean, $185 million in 4 years for Austin Reeves. Wow. Crazy. So must-see TV, little NBA round 2 later on tonight. Definitely not. How about baseball? Did you see that play in the Cubs-Mets game? Baseball's got some crazy rules, right? And they got the instant replay and this and that. So Cubs are beating the Mets. I think it's either 7-2 or 9-2. Game's basically over, right? Pete Crow Anderson steals second base. I think it was 7-2. He wouldn't have been stealing if it was 9-2. Steals second base. But it was actually ball 4. So runners on first and second, right? No. Anderson was called out at second base. How's that possible? It was ball 4, right? You just got through saying that. So he's stealing second base. He doesn't know it's ball 4. And when I first saw the headlines to the story, Anderson, comes off second base, called out. I'm thinking, all right, you know what? He got off the base. He maybe went back to first base because he thought it was a foul ball or something, or he was called out, so he just left the base completely. No, it wasn't that. He steals second base. He's called out. Now it is ball 4. So he actually is safe on second base. But when he was sliding, we've seen this 1,000 times, right? He has his hand going forward, and his hand slides past the bag. And for a fraction of a second, he goes off the bag before his stomach or side or something, or other hand actually coming back, touches the bag. But there was a fraction of a second he was off the bag. He was actually called out originally, which he was. Then the ball 4 kind of kicks in, so he's safe. And then the Mets got to give their challenge people credit. I don't know who's in charge of that, but someone was smart enough to say, no, he came off the bag. By a half a second, quarter of a second, he was off the bag. So since he touched the bag, there's your walk. Okay, you're not out. You get the bag, you touch the bag, but because you came off the bag, you're now out again. So, in which it should have been a walk, runners on first and second, he's called out because he was off the bag for a half a second on a walk, right? Craig Counsell goes, not as ballistic as I thought he would. If that was me, I would have been going just bonkers. Gets himself tossed from the game because you can't argue any play that went to a review because the Mets challenged. Because they originally said, okay, we're going to wipe off the outside. It was a walk. You're on second base. And then whoever was in charge of the Mets review saw that happen, knew the rules. And the rules are once you touch the base, as he did, okay, everything is now fair game. There's your free base at second base. You're not out. And anything else after that is fair game. So I guess this replay guy knew that. Told the Mets the challenge. They challenged. They won the challenge, and that was the end of that. Why that wouldn't – see, my argument would have been, and is, once he's called out, play is over. You called me out, so I left the bag. Why are you blaming me because you made the mistake? It's no different than me walking – really, it's no different than me walking back to the dugout. You called me out. Now you have to correct things and tell me, okay, it's a ball 4 walk, so now I get a chance to get on second base. That to me is, I think, what they're going to come back and say. If there was no call, safe or out, then I could see. But How stupid is that, though? Could you imagine Game 7 World Series, 3-2 game, pick a team, our Red Sox, even though they're not getting to the World Series, runner steals second base. It's a ball 4. He starts walking up the bag, not realizing it's ball 4, and he gets called out. And maybe the World Series ending on a stupid play like that. Baseball's got to step in. They just have to step in and say that we can't have that. Once there's got to be a pregnant pause. If it's not the same play, and this is the same play, he's sliding and he came off the bag. If it's not that, if he voluntarily leaves the bag once he knows he's safe, okay. But on a play like that, you can't have that. You just can't have that. I see that Juan Soto got hurt again for the Mets. Man, it's just not happening for this team. It is just, we talked about it on the podcast, between the Mets and the Red Sox, both, it's almost identical. It really is kind of scary how similar their situations are. Both come into this season with high expectations, both, with realistic playoff, if not World Series hopes, right? Both are in last place. Both are 14 or 14 and a half games out of their division race. Red Sox 14 and a half back of the Stankies in the AL East, and the Mets 14 back of the Braves in the National League East, both in the East as well. Wild card, Mets are 7 back with how many teams to overtake? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 teams. So there's 7 back and have to overtake 7 teams. And the Red Sox are 6 back, having to overtake 8 teams. I mean, almost just absolute identical situations. And I don't know if either one really has a hope. At least the Red Sox are relatively healthy, although they, Roman Anthony, they do have their injuries. But if Soto, they're saying is day to day, Lindor is still out. What they play like about 10 games, if that, this year with both in the lineup for the Mets. I mean, it's just one, clumsy thing after another with New York. It's just, man, we're approaching a halfway point. Most of these teams have now played 78, 79, 80 games. This is the halfway point of the baseball season. There are a lot of good teams that are just stuck in mud. I mean, just absolutely. If you look at the standings, I mean, who would have pegged the Chicago White Sox to be in first place, right? Nobody. I don't think anyone thought the Milwaukee Brewers would be able to do it again after losing some players from last year's surprising team. You got the St. Louis Cardinals, 7 games over 500. I thought they were going to be brutal this year, just awful this year, right? That's not the case. Seattle's finally overtaken the A's for first place in the AL West, but for a long time, the A's were in first place. Now it is Seattle. And you look at the last place and next to last place teams, Red Sox in the East, Kansas City and Detroit in the AL Central, which we all thought was, those 2 teams would be at the top. Mets in the AL East, we figured those would be, on top. Cincinnati, albeit only 4 games under 500, but they're in last place. I thought they were going to win that division, to tell you the truth. And no surprise with Colorado. And I am a little surprised with San Francisco. At 32 and 45. I thought they had a chance to be a sleeper team this year. Made a nice run late last year, get an off season with Rafi Devers, get the whole team together. They brought in the manager from Tennessee, the college baseball coach. I thought that was, I was willing to accept that move and give it a shot. But man, it's just baseball is crazy. And then you see Devers, right? I looked it up, he still has 7 years at $28.5 million left on his contract after this year. 7 more years. They picked him up. The Red Sox, are still thanking their lucky stars. They had a team that was willing to take his contract. I still like him, and I would take him, if I was a team, as long as the Giants were willing to take some money. But when you really think about it, $28.5 million is not that much in baseball. But, if you want to pay, that's about $200 million still left, $190 million. If you want to pay 50 of that, I would take him off your hands. I'll take a shot. But he doesn't want to come off the base bat. You saw that over the weekend, right? He gets on base. They want a pinch run from him. He's got a sore back, sore knee, sore something. And he waves them off Guys on the field even. He didn't even like wave him off in the dugout. The guy was on the field. He was like 5 feet from first base. And there's Rafi saying, no, get away. I'm not coming out, right? Eventually he did, but it was a bad look. So then you got that issue with San Francisco. And boy, they got to be just, I don't know if they're ultimately kicking themselves, but, they made a couple of runs at free agents and they weren't able to sign any of them. They all went elsewhere. And they had, an all-star player locked in for 10 years, 8 years. And they figured, okay, that's not a bad deal. Made sense on paper, right? And now it's like, I bet they just wish they never had that deal done. And he hasn't adapted well to the National League. That ballpark is a monster ballpark compared to Fenway Park. So it's been disaster. It's been one disaster after another for the Giants between that and then the Pride Night and all the goofiness that went on with that. You talk about a team that, like I said, I thought was going to be a halfway decent team this year, but not the case. How about the Jazz Chisholm? He actually, I'll give him credit last night. He went 2 for 4 with a 2-run homer. Stankies beat Detroit 4-3. The day earlier, he got scolded for having a lollipop in his mouth. When you can't cut it and you don't make a whole lot of money and you can't cut it for the Miami Marlins and they get rid of you, you're a dope. And that's what happened with this guy, right? The Yankees take him, they bring him in, has a productive year, announces before, with a lollipop earlier this season when the Yankees were taking on the Red Sox, which I guess no one noticed. Now the other day, he's out there playing second base with a lollipop in his mouth. I mean, really? I mean, just a dope. Just like a dope. But he did go 2 for 4 last night after being scolded by the manager, Aaron Boone, who's got no control of that locker room, clearly. All right. One more thing here before we take a quick little break. So speaking of the Red Sox, they're taking on the Stankies Sunday night. And you would figure that's going to be your Sunday night baseball game of the week, right? So NBC's got the coverage this year. No problem. It's kind of good. I can do whatever I need to do Sunday and then just be able to sit, maybe light up the grill and watch the baseball game, right? So Yankees, Red Sox, even though there's not much on the line for the Red Sox these days. But that's okay. I'll deal with it. So I read in the paper today that they're going to bring some former players in to be part of the broadcast. That's kind of NBC's thing this year. Last week they had the Mets and Philadelphia Phillies. Who did they have last week? It was John Kruk and John Franco. I'm looking at my notes here. So, okay, so that's kind of cool. And this week they're going to have Will Middlebrooks, who does some stuff for Nesson, and Anthony Rizzo for the former Stanky. Okay, not bad. I'll deal with that. And then they're going to have one more guy. Good old Roger Clemens is going to be part of the broadcast this week. Why? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if these networks, whether it's Aroyd with ABC / ESPN being part of the, or Fox actually, excuse me, Fox. But what is it about bringing steroid guys in as part of these broadcasts? I don't get it. Who's crying out to hear from Roger Clemens, right? If you want to get a guy who played for both the Red Sox and Yankees, all right. But there's plenty of guys. You go get Johnny Damon. Go get there's a gazillion guys on the top of my head. Sparky Lyle, right? Wade Boggs. Plenty of guys that pitch, hit or pitch for both teams. Why are we getting, who's calling out for Roger Clemens? And not that I ever want to defend Aroyd, but at least he admitted he did steroids. We all know that. At least he said, yep, I was sticking needles in my ass, and that's what helped me do well, and it was pressure and all the excuses he gave, whatever it is. He did it twice. Fine. At least he came clean, pardon the pun. And if you want to accept that and give him a second, third chance, okay, that's on you. But Clemens hasn't done that. The whole world knows he did steroids. His best friend testifying told the world that he did steroids. So we know he did roids. We just know it. And yet he's never admitted it. He's never had to. I think he took a chance on the Hall of Fame. I think he thought, okay, if I admit I did roids, I'm not getting in. If I hold out my innocence, maybe I'll be able to sneak in. Maybe there'll be enough people that'll believe me and that'll vote for me. Maybe there'll be enough people that won't care if I did roids or not. So you add the two together. Maybe I sneak in. Maybe that's what his thinking was. But obviously it didn't work. He didn't get in. He won't get in. So I don't understand. I got to sit through the nauseum of Roger Clemens. I don't want a liar in front of me. And that's what he is. He's a bold-faced, categorical liar. And again, I'll take Roy. At least he came clean. But you're going to reward a guy. You're going to throw this guy in our face, even though he's snickering behind our backs, knowing that he did roids and he doesn't have to admit it. I don't give that. I don't give guys. I'll give guys second. I'll give guys third chances. I will. But I don't give guys who want to lie to me a second and third shot. I just don't. You want to fess up? You want to admit? It would be really hard for him to do at this point. But, I think the American public is a sympathetic public. I think they would say, okay, you know what? We kind of understand. We'll you got kids now when you're playing in baseball and everything else. It's a long time down the road. You're not getting in a Hall of Fame. Okay, we'll accept it maybe. But for him to continue with the lie and now put him on TV, I don't need that. I really don't need that. So Roger Clemens, I'll watch the game with the sound down if he's going to be on the whole time. That is for sure. It's hard enough watching the Red Sox play these days, let alone playing with Roger Clemens doing the broadcasting. Yikes. All right, quick little break. The oldest 50-year-old you'll ever see. Soccer sucks, and NCAA, making a little bit of a change. And we'll check out our can't lose absolute lock yesterday. See how it did, and throw out another one tonight, right here on the Scott Wetzel Show.
Hi, golfers. IndyCar Tim here. I want to talk to you a little bit about Golf Central Magazine. It's not just a golf magazine. It's the magazine for everything. Turf, travel, philanthropy, and lifestyle. Head over to golfcentralmag.com and check out the latest issue. Some of the regular features in Golf Central Magazine: the Golf Bachelorette of the Month, the Golf Bachelor of the Month, the Golf Cart Girl of the Month, Golf History, Grip It and Sip It. So head over to golfcentralmag.com. It's free. It's the magazine for everything: turf, travel, philanthropy, and lifestyle. Golf Central Magazine at golfcentralmag.com. We'll see you there.
Hey folks, let me tell you about Bay Area Modern Medical Center, a very different kind of approach to primary care. Personalized preventative medicine, not a one-pill-fits-all mentality. Christopher Lugo and his experienced medical staff are proactive in looking at issues before they become a problem, encouraging a healthy lifestyle with proper diet, supplements, and exercise to optimize your active lifestyle. Rather than the impersonal, rushed approach, you will be the only patient and will have our full attention. That's new. Getting old is inevitable, but feeling and looking old is avoidable. Bay Area Modern Medical Centers are experts in anti-aging regenerative medicine that optimizes your body's performance in many areas. So call for an appointment to get started on a journey back to full health and a happy life with a new, modern way of healthcare. Call 844-977-3477 or go to BAMMC.com. That's 844-977-3477 or BAMMC.com.
Today's show is brought to you by Tomstown, a premier craft distillery based in Kansas City, Missouri. Discover their award-winning lineup, including double oaked bourbon, botanical gin, and double grain vodka, named the best craft vodka by the readers of USA Today. Available for online delivery in 40 states. Visit toms-town.com or their Kansas City distillery to explore more. Elevate your game with Tomstown, where history meets innovation. Please enjoy responsibly.
Hello, folks. Let's talk a little bit about turf life. And what is turf life? It's pretty much if your life involves turf in any way, shape, or form, you live the turf life. Go ahead and brand yourself with the turf life. Maybe a back window decal, maybe a hat. You know where you can get those kinds of things to showcase that your life revolves around sports and or anything that involves sports. If it's a sports business or sports education or just your enjoyment of the outdoors, head over to turflifeclub.com. OrionGolfClub.com. Become a turf head. Join the club today. You can do that by going to that said website that I just told you to go to. You can snag your window decal like I was talking about, or any of your other Turf Life accessories. Show everybody that you live the turf life, and we'll see you there, over there at that turflifeclub.com.
Although it may seem tempting to go without health care insurance, the financial risk far outweighs the gain you may experience. For example, did you know if you simply broke your leg, it could cost you nearly $7,500? Put on top of that a hospital stay, you could be looking at $10,000 to $15,000. Ensuring that you don't go uncovered is so important, as according to CNBC, high medical bills are the highest contributing factor to why Americans end up taking money out of their retirement savings, or worse, find themselves filing bankruptcy. So go to don'tgouncovered.com or call 800-669-1505. Now, depending on your income, you can get plans for zero premium. Our experts will guide you through the process effortlessly. They will shop many plans and find the one that's right for you. I called and I have full health coverage through Florida Blue for zero monthly premium. It's a free call. So why go uncovered? It's a huge risk. Go to don'tgouncovered.com or call 800-669-1505. That's 800-669-1505.
Orion Golf Management Solutions. Orion Management Solutions has tailored its service packages just like it tailors its approach to customers. Some owners need more supervision, while others need periodic assessment of their short-term and long-term strategies and programs. Orion can be called in to develop a business plan with the existing staff, or we can assist with the daily management of a facility or event. Either way, we make sure the client is satisfied and understands the direction the facility needs to go in order to achieve the owner's goals. Orion Management Solutions can help with owner assistance service solutions, daily course management, business plan development, monthly operations, or as-needed consulting services. Whatever your need, Orion Golf Management Solutions can help. Check out OrionGolf.com.
Let's go.
Right now, back to the show on FanStream Sports.
All right, welcome back. It is the Scott Wetzel Show right here on FanStream Sports. We'll do a lot more communicating back and forth, but a couple of tweets that were sent out, or I'm not sure, was it on YouTube? I'm still kind of learning the system here, but Mick in Minnesota there, the best opening ever is back. Yes, that is a pretty good opening. And then Tim in Pittsburgh, I know from the podcast there. Tasha makes the opening. Yeah. There isn't a real Scott Wetzel opening without Tasha in there. We whatever opening we do end up using, and I think we'll use this one. Tasha does make the cut for sure. So, but again, more back and forth with that stuff. Once I learned actually how to do it, I'm not exactly technologically inclined there, we'll say. Nice little winner last night with the boys in Vegas, with our over 8.5, but it comes with sad news. We have a certain number of pitchers that we just bet against all the time because they are just so bad, right? One of them is Kodai, or was going to be anyway. We're ready to hop on the Kodai Senga bandwagon, the New York Mets pitcher. He's got an ERA over 10 with an 0-6 record. They have one win. It is like 8 or 9 starts, but he was so bad last night. He gave us a nice, easy winner, but unfortunately, the Mets announced today he's being sent to the bullpen. So that's kind of tough. Why he's not being sent down to the minors, I don't know, but he's being sent to the bullpen. So unfortunately, no automatic play against the Mets. But with that, some good news. We do have Kyle Freeland. He's one of our other automatic go-against pitchers pitching tonight as the Rockies play our Red Sox in the best of 3 rubber game here. So Boston minus 165 road favorite. You got Rangers Suarez on the hill. He's been pretty good for the Red Sox. Red Sox issues have not been starting pitching. That's for sure. Even the bullpen. Even though Chapman blew game 1 of the series the other day. So Suarez has been a real good pitcher. So we will take the Red Sox tonight. If you're only going to play one, cannot lose. Boston minus 165 at Colorado with Kyler Freeland on the hill. He's been brutal. He did pitch well his last time out, but against the Pirates, who can't hit the red of a paper bag. Not that the Red Sox are great these days hitting the baseball, but I'll still take my chances that Freeland is so bad and he'll implode like he's done in basically every start this year. So can't lose play. Red Sox minus 165. Soccer. We went, if you're joining us now and not a member of one of the other shows that we do, we're going with ties in soccer. 6 games are on the board today. So we got to really kind of push the envelope here. We really probably need 2. There's only one. The Haiti match that the tie is 6-1. All the others are 4, 3, 2.5 or so to 1. So with 6 games, realistically, unless the Haiti one ends up being a tie, we're going to need 2 to end up in a tie. But that's okay. We started doing this the other day. We're 1-6. This show in particular is 1-3, so we'll take that if you just started. So we made money yesterday because the one tie we got was plus 550. So let's go all 6 games. For whatever reason, they're doubling up today. We have 6. We have 2 at 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 at 6 o'clock Eastern, and then 2 at 9 o'clock Eastern. So that's staggering them. You got 2 in Mexico, 1 in Mexico City, 1 in Guadalupe. I thought they would have staggered, maybe made 1 at 10 o'clock. Same thing, the ones at 3 o'clock. You got 1 in Vancouver, Canada, 1 in Georgia. You got 1 in Georgia and then 1 in Florida. Could have kind of staggered them. Maybe got started 6 and 7, right? I don't know why. It's funny. The NFL and NBA and NHL goes out of its way not to duplicate things. It seems like soccer is like intentionally said, yeah, we got to have 2 going on at the same time. They got to start at the same and end at the same. Why wouldn't you, especially since the next games, the 3 o'clock game, they don't take 3 hours, 2 hours. So, you'd have an open window there. Start 1 at 3, start 1 at 4, have the first one end at 5, second one end at 6. Then you have the next one at 6, the next one at 7. And same thing. The first game ends at 8. Start 1 at 8 if you want to, or actually wait an hour. And the second one starts at 9, and then do the 9 and a 10. I mean, I know it's not that difficult to figure out, right? If you want to be able to get all these games on, but 2 at 3, 2 at 6, and 2 at 9 o'clock. But I'll tell you, the soccer stuff is really. I know we're still in the first round. It's getting to the point where I can't really take it anymore. We tried. We're betting on it, so we're going to keep a little bit of an eye on it. But I just don't get. There's a number of things outside of the usual, the flopping, the pretending you're dead when someone barely touches you. We've debated that stuff over the year. We all know that soccer is boring and bad and sucks because of that, right? But here's some other things. Watching it a little more closely this year. I don't understand why they stop the clock or why they don't stop the clock with these media timeouts. Midway through the first half, 3.5-minute TV timeout, 22.5, midway through the second half, you have another 3.5-minute timeout in order to sell time. But that's okay. They're spending $1 gazillion. I'm okay with that, right? No big deal. We're used to that here in the United States commercials. Other, members might not be. They're all, fretting about it, but we're used to that. So that the fact that it's only once, I'll sign up for that any day of the week, right? What I don't get is it's a 90-minute game. Clock doesn't stop during injuries. Clock doesn't stop during subs. Clock doesn't stop when you reset the ball. Clock doesn't stop on corner kicks and all the other goofy little stoppages you have. It doesn't stop. It's dumb. I don't know why, especially with players getting hurt, why you just can't hit the button, but you don't. Then I was, watching the game, and they're in one of the timeouts, and I realized the clock is still ticking. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. We're in a TV timeout. Stop the clock. Right? I mean, I know you don't stop it for all those other goofy reasons, but we're in a 3.5 minute. You know exactly when we're stopping, basically. You know exactly when we're starting again. What is so difficult, soccer people, to just hit the freaking red button? It's like President Trump having a red button. We're going to blast Iran. You hit the button. Don't do it. Right? But you can stop this one. Hit this red button. Just stop the clock. I don't understand why they would not do that. What is so difficult about that? Who's the brain that said, no, we're going to keep the clock rolling? And I don't know. I really don't. And I don't profess to know this stuff with soccer. I know rules for all the other sports, but the 3.5 minutes they're in a commercial break, is that 3.5 minutes being added to the added time? Like at the end of the first half and the end of the game, through all the stoppages you had in the first half, we'll just use as an example, that gets added to the clock at the end of the first half. So instead of it being 45 minutes flat, it's really, you get an extra 3 minutes because we didn't stop the clock when Joe Schmo was pretending he was hurt, right? So I don't know if the 3.5-minute commercial break is added to that time. If it's not, then the game really is at 95 minutes or 90 minutes rather. You're taking two breaks that's 7 minutes left. It's really 83 minutes. If it is, then again, I need to have logic for things. I was always the kid growing up. Why? My favorite word in the English language. Why? Really? That's it. I need to, whatever it is, sports, politics, religion. Why? It's the most dangerous word in the English language because it creates fights. It really does. So why is it so difficult to just hit the button and stop the clock? I don't know. Why do we only have one real ref? I know we got the side guys, and I used to do that, every once in a while when my kids were playing soccer when they were little. They're not involved in the game. You got this monstrosity of a field, right? And you got one poor sap who's got to cover the entire field. I mean, I don't know how many miles that guy runs. I give that guy more credit than the soccer player. And the soccer player is yelling and screaming about all these fouls that, he got hit in the face and no penalty was called. Yeah, this poor sap, he's got to cover the whole freaking field. You should forget one. You should have like 4 guys, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. And each one have a side. Only one. Even the NHL came to realize that, we can't have only one referee. They added referees. It used to be only one in the NHL. You'd have the linesmen, breaking it up, but now you actually have different guys that could call the fouls and stuff. Why soccer would do that? As big as the soccer field is, think about the NFL, right? They're basically playing in a field the size of an NFL field, right? Think of the NFL. They have what, 11, 10? 10 officials? Soccer's got 1. Same size field. NFL has 10. And the play is concentrated more, obviously. And soccer only has 1. And you wonder why you have fights, and you wonder why you have brawls, and you wonder wwhy you have bad calls. Bad calls in the United States is because the referees suck. Bad calls in soccer because the poor guy is trying to watch, a 100-foot field. Dope. I was checking out our ties the other day, right? Last week. And I'm trying to figure out who's playing who. And I see all these records of the soccer teams. And it's 0-1-0. And I'm thinking, all right, this team is 0-1-0. They're playing another team that's 0-1-0. And then there were like 6 games, literally. I think it was Sunday that day. 5 games. They were all 0-1-0. And they came, from 2 different divisions, but they were all in those 2 divisions. I said, how could that be? Someone's got to win. How could all 5 of these games, 10 teams, all have losses? Because in the real world, 0-1-0 means 0 wins, 1 loss, 0 ties. You remember NHL's got ties, right? So what's the problem, Scott? Not soccer. Soccer's got to be different. So it finally dawned on me that the 0-1-0 stands for 0 wins, 1 tie, 0 losses. The whole world puts wins, losses, tie in that category, in that sequence, but not soccer. Nope. Soccer's got to put the tie in front of the loss. And you could say, well, that's because they get 1 point, Scott. You get a point in the NHL. If you go to overtime and you lose, you're getting a point. So that tie in the NHL, why isn't that the second column? Stupid. It's just, I don't know why soccer has to be that way. I'm trying to bet the under. Now, this is not a soccer necessarily thing. It's more a FanDuel thing. So I want to bet the under shot on goals or shot on net or shot on target. They got to have to call it, right? All these different phrases for it. In essence, it's shot on goal. So I want to bet that on Sunday. Same thing. I go to my FanDuel account, and there's like 15 different ways to bet overs, whether it's shot on net or whether it's shots or whatever the case may be. But there's no way to bet an under. It's like, and you could have as little as, one shot on net minus, 10-1, or two shots on net minus 8-1, and so on down the line. And you could over, but there was no way to bet the under. And I looked at other games, same thing. It wasn't just the one game. I don't like that. I don't like bets where you can't bet both sides. Because there are many, many games. I look it up where teams will have no shots on net. They'll play 90-plus minutes, and they will literally have no shots on net. I don't know how that's humanly possible. I really don't. But it's just, man. If you can't bet either side, then I generally stay away. And I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, it's a common bet. Shots on target, shots on net, shots on goal. I mean, it's not some obscure, goofy little bet that okay, we only want action on one side. You would think they would want action on both sides. Is it that too many people would bet the unders? Is that what you're telling me? So they're only making a bet to make you lose by betting the over? Maybe that's it, but that's another dopey rule. And then these broadcasts. Now, what happened to the Americans? Does one of the guys brought this up on the podcast, and it's true. It doesn't really bother me that much, but all the announcers have accents, all of them. Female, male, white, black, our country, foreign country. I mean, are there any Americans that follow this goofy sport that we can watch on TV and explain to us? Do they all have to be, foreigners with the accents? And I'm trying to figure, what did he just say? I got to reverse that. Did he say it's going to be a high scoring game, or did he say it was going to be a low scoring game? I'm really not exactly sure. So, just another goofy thing. Anyway, we're here, and this is only the first round still. This has been lingering on, and this is like the NBA and NHL postseason. I mean, it's the first round yet. Whatever they would describe it. Hopefully it ends soon. I know USA plays tomorrow, or is it Friday? It's I'll tell you in a second. Not that it matters because it's a meaningless game, but because they've already advanced, they play Turkey tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow, right? Last game on the board. Here's another thing that was brought up. The way I don't know how they figure out the formula on who you play next round. You have the 4 teams in your division. You do the round robin, top 2 teams, and then the one extra team advances. We get all that, right? So how they rank the teams for the next round, I don't know. But it was pointed out by one of the guys that it looks like we're going to play Bosnia in the next round. Somehow or another, they figured that out. And if we win that round, and if Iran wins, then they figured out that there's a really good chance USA would play Iran in round of 16. How interesting would that be? But I was saying, on the podcast, I don't think the average American has the angst against Iran. I think more people are ticked off at Trump, and I'm a Trump guy, than they are actually Iran. And I compared it to the hockey with Canada in the Olympics. Nowhere close would this come to USA versus Canada. That was real. That was in the middle of it all. That was the Canadian people throwing anti-American things and American people throwing anti-Canadian things. Then you throw in a more popular sport here in the United States anyway, in hockey. That was like intense. That was a lot of fun, especially since we won. I don't think that'll be the same with soccer if it does come to USA-Iran. Maybe. Maybe Trump will throw some things out there, but I think he's trying to play nice. So it comes at a bad time. Maybe if that happened a couple of weeks ago, he'd really throw the rhetoric out there to heighten it all. But I don't, if it does come to that, I don't know. I just don't think it'll be the same. I don't think the average American, I think they're all upset about the oil prices and their gas prices and a war going on that they don't feel like they should be a part of. But I don't know if there's necessarily blame being thrown at the Iranians. Maybe the Iranian government, but we've kind of separated the two. Could be wrong on that, but I don't think it's going to be, anywhere close. But it could happen, apparently. So again, I don't know how they figure all this stuff out, but the soccer geeks on the podcast have been able to figure that out. So anyway, we'll see. We will definitely see. But they got basically a worthless game against Turkey tomorrow. So another tomorrow, we actually have 6 more games tomorrow. So we're either going to go belly up with our ties or we're going to hit it rich. It's either going to be feast or famine, I'm sure, with everything going on. What do we have? More comments here? Tasha, happy to hear the old intro. Oh, yeah, they love that intro. They do love that intro. We had that on a previous show. So that is, we'll definitely do that. Sad news. Did you see this story? Guy in Madison Square Garden Network was at a concert. And he's 51 years old, too. Not some dopey young kid, right? He's at this concert, Goose. Never heard of it, Wild Goose, I'll drink, but Goose as a concert, never heard of. So apparently some band from Connecticut, right? Here in New York, 51 years old, fell off over a railing, died. I mean, you imagine that? You're going to a concert, and you're just thinking, okay, I'm going to have a good time, drink some beers, whatever, party with my friends, go see this band, and I'll be home in a few hours. He lived in Connecticut. I'll see you in a few hours, hon. I don't know if he's married or not with kids. I imagine so, but 51. And see you later, hon. See you later. We'll see you in a few hours. Have fun. Be careful now. Oh, yeah, I'll be careful. Don't worry about it. And doesn't come home. Guy falls off a railing and fell far enough where he died. Crazy. Just like wacky. So, man, you think about it. I used to work at Action Park in Jersey. And I'll never forget. It's like it was yesterday. That was an amusement park, if you're not familiar with that, in Jersey, North Jersey. And they would have all kind of rides, and all kind of people got hurt, whether it was the Action Park slide, the Alpine slide, or whether it was the whirlpool. They would drown and not find the bodies until the end of the day because the water was so dirty. I worked in the motor parks. We'd have people flying off the carts and everything. There was like a wave pool, and then there was basically like a kayak pool, and people got electrocuted because the wires were free, right? I mean, all these crazy stories. And I always used to think as a kid, like, man, you come to an amusement park, the last thing you're thinking of is you're going to go home with one less family member. I mean, just like, and that's what happened there. And it kind of the same thing here. I always think about that whenever I hear these tragic stories. Really, it's sad. I mean, you go to a concert, you think you're going to have a good time. You maybe drink a little bit. They're saying no criminal activity they're thinking was involved, so it doesn't sound like he was pushed or anything or got into a fight. I imagine they'll find out he was drunk. That's what I'm guessing, and just took a header. But man, that's just that's nuts. By the way, that Red Sox game is this afternoon, 3:00 Eastern. So you can still get it in. It's going to first pitch here in about 10 minutes. Red Sox back up to 175. Well, let's see what FanDuel has. I see 175 on the 4-letter network. FanDuel is given it was 165 earlier today. Right now it is 168. So right around 170. So you lay $170 to win 100, or you can put 100 down to win $61, whichever kind of strikes your fancy there. So we got the Red Sox later on this afternoon, and then we got the 6 soccer games. Betting all ties. We'll run this thing out. You decide. I'll use $100 as our wager just to kind of keep track of things. We went 1-3 yesterday, and the one win was $550 plus $550. So if you are doing this, you should be up starting from yesterday, $250, $550 winner, and then the $300 that we lost on. So 6 games later on today. Don't really like anything else baseball wise. Wu and Ashcroft, it should be a pretty good pitching matchup. Seattle and Pittsburgh, but I wouldn't take a chance. Nola stinks, but I can't bet Washington for Philadelphia. None of the big boys are pitching for the Milwaukee Brewers. First game, the Cubbies already lead the Mets 6-3. That sink is shipping. That ship is sinking faster than fast. And none of the big boys. Marty Perez is pitching for the Braves. I wouldn't touch that. So nothing really crazy today. Big slate of WNBA. You want to you bet that, which we do definitely. You got Caitlin Clark and Indiana hosting Phoenix, laying 8.5. I'll give you one for you. Minnesota, big number. They're laying 9.5 in Washington, but this is a system, if you will, play. Washington this past weekend just beat Minnesota. Washington is a mediocre team at best. Minnesota is one of the best teams in the WNBA, and they beat Minnesota in Minnesota. So if you like revenge spots, I know it's the WNBA, and I know it's a big number on the road, but Minnesota laying 9.5 against Washington isn't a bad little play. And you got a pretty good game with Atlanta and Golden State late night tonight if you want to watch that. So there you go. We got a couple plays. We got soccer. We got NBA. We got some baseball. And we're in. All right. One quick hour. So don't forget, we'll be here every day, Monday through Friday, 2 o'clock, roughly 2 o'clock Eastern time. We'll be on YouTube. Easiest way is go to fanstreamsports.com to watch the show, but there'll be other avenues where you can converse back and forth once we get everything up and running with you and I. And who knows, even maybe even taking some phone calls somewhere down the line. So enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, folks. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you tomorrow right here on FanStream Sports.